Oof. Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you're having a great day. It's hard out there for people. Let's have a look.
Living in America in 2025 feels like you're trying to breathe while someone's hand is over your mouth. And they're charging you rent for it. As soon as you get paid, it's gone. You buy groceries and the bags are lighter. You fill your tank and the needle mocks you. Food's up, rent's up, insurance, utilities, coffee. I mean, even your damn toothpaste is up. Everything's up. Except the paycheck. Oh, and everything's also smaller. Shrinkflation? Yeah, that's the way they rob you while smiling in your face. You're not imagining it. The box is smaller. The portions are skimpier. The price is higher, and you're supposed to eat it with a smile. This isn't bad budgeting. This isn't laziness. This is a rigged game where everyone at the top profits and everyone at the bottom is a slave. We're getting taxed, drained, and blamed every step of the way. If you feel it too, you're not crazy. You're just living in America in 2025. And it's fucking brutal.
You know, there is that feeling right now, just all throughout society. And there's reasons for that, right? It's justified to have that dark feeling, I feel like. At the same time, like, we can't let ourselves just dive too deeply into it. Just like let ourselves go, you know, become so black-pilled that we don't find a reason to live there. Of course, there's still a reason. And I mean, just because it's harder out there, and it is harder out there, doesn't mean that we stop trying. But yeah, some of these things are crazy because it does feel like for most people that as soon as you get paid, all that money's gone. It immediately has to go to bills because the cost of rent, the cost of groceries, the cost of your utilities, paying off the loans that you've had, they're all going up and up and up, and people are just really kind of at wit's end because it feels like, you know, at what point, you know, can I just keep throwing this on credit cards to live? Because at some point, all my cards are going to get maxed out, my credit score is going to tank, and it's just a lot of people feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And I think there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. We have to have that outlook, but I guess it does also feel a bit delusional to think like that in the situation that a lot of people are finding themselves in now, because this is a brutal time to be an American because, you know, you don't get any sympathy from the rest of the world because the rest of the world sees America. They see, you know, it's an affluent culture. The people who even are poor here, you know, still live quite well compared to most third world countries. But the thing is, we're not comparing ourselves to third world countries. We're comparing ourselves to the generations that were just behind us. And we look at where we're at now and where we're going, and it causes a lot of apprehension and anxiety in people, rightly so.
And look, I don't care if you're 22 or 52 right now. If you feel like you're drowning, it's not because of you. It's the fucking system. They told us to work hard, stay out of debt, and we'll be good. Well, guess what? We're all working nonstop. We're all maxing out credit cards just to survive. And they still act like we're the fucking problem. Nah, they're the ones who broke this shit. Gas, food, rent, everything's up. Wages, they're stuck. And somehow it's all our fault. How long are we going to play along before we flip this fucking script?
I guess that kind of energy is not exactly wrong. Like, I feel that way sometimes too. We get quite dark on this channel sometimes just because, like I said, that's just the reality of the moment we're in. If we were in better times, if we were in happier times, guess what? This would be a happy, positive channel. You know, people are always saying, hey, large man, since you got back to America, your videos have been quite dark, quite depressing. I'm like, yeah, because this place has become dark and depressing. You know, it's not Greece, it's not Thailand, it's not the Philippines, it's not even Turkey. People here are starting to suffer, and well, they have been suffering, but now it's getting to the point where people just are really, have had enough. And that's the thing, it doesn't seem to, whoever we put in office doesn't change anything for a positive. It's always a negative, and things are getting harder and harder and harder. So I mean, like, what do we do next? Because the next thing is, you know, trying to get a good job that actually pays for, you know, the life that our parents had, our grandparents had. Good luck finding that. Because once you have a job, the chances are you're probably just going to get laid off at some point, or you're only going to be with that job for a couple of years. So that long-term security that comes with having, you know, a position at a company for your entire life, that's not there anymore. And once you do get laid off, you know, good luck trying to find a position. Because every time you put in an application, there's hundreds of other applications for that same position, even though it's just entry level, you know?
There is no such thing as a good job anymore, and I think that we need to collectively just understand that. The days of just applying or walking with an application or calling or knowing a friend and getting a job, those days are completely over. And what's even worse is that, like, you can't even go get a job at anything under like $25 an hour and live a life by yourself, live a life independently. And I wish our parents understood that. They genuinely think that we can just go out, get a job, and just make it happen. I don't understand what we gotta do. What chart do we need to show them? What news segment, what graph, what table we need to do? What do we need to do to show them that it just doesn't work no more?
Yeah, the traditional way of finding a job is dead, and like I said, like when you go online to put in an application on a job, you're facing the competition of hundreds of other people. So unless your resume stands out, and there are ways to do that, you can always use AI, you can always just lie. Lots of people do that. I mean, that's a fact. Listen, I used to be a recruiter. I understand people lie all the time. I mean, you can do background checks all you want. You can check employment, but still there's ways around it. There is. But even when you find those jobs, it's hard to get any kind of senior position now because people just aren't retiring. People aren't leaving those jobs. So the only positions that are open are the lower paying jobs. And like I said, those are even harder to come by now.
My husband and I were recently laid off from our jobs last week, or like 2 weeks ago. And so I worked there for 10 years. And then before that, I had babies. So this is the first time I'm like looking for work in like 14 years. What? I had to apply for this job. I filled out all of the questions. It probably took me 30 minutes with including my resume. Okay, fine. Then they come back and they're like, great, the next step is personality test. 13 pages. I had to print it because it's not like something you do online. You have to fill it out and there's a formula. Like, please send the results back in this specific formula. And then reading the instructions to the questions. What? I didn't think I was going to have to print it. I was like, it's fine, I can keep track. No, I had to print it. 13 pages. 13. And I had to answer all the questions specifically, to put them in a specific formula, to send them back in a specific formula.
I've been doing research lately on a video that I have coming up on job competition and the hiring process. And they're upping some of these jobs because there's so much competition and they have so many rounds where they're just getting rid of candidates that some of these jobs, it takes months to get and up to 7 or 8 different interviews that you have to get through just to solidify yourself as the actual candidate or one of the top final candidates for that position. And like I said, it just feels ridiculous for people because, who has months to wait between jobs? Like, she has a husband, he got laid off too, so maybe they had a savings. But if you have a family, don't even think about it at that point. If you have a family, the risk of being out of the job market are substantial because there's a lot more cost that goes into that. There's a lot more insecurities that go in with having a kid, and things can go bad quickly, especially if you lose your health insurance because kids get sick, kids get hurt, and if you don't have the health insurance in America's healthcare system, those couple months that you were off work, if something bad happens to your kid or you, well, now you're in medical debt and you're going to be paying that off for the rest of your life. Because that can be anywhere from $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 up. When my brother had his kid, there were complications and there ended up being almost a $250,000 medical bill. And thank God that they had insurance, because if they didn't, they'd be going through that kid's entire life trying to pay that bill off. People don't have the time to not be employed. And like I said, the jobs that are out there right now, they're not cutting the mustard. You know what I mean? They're not doing it for people. They're not paying what people need to just to have a life, to live any kind of decent life in America, because just everyone is on a razor's edge trying to make it to the next payday, trying to make it to the next paycheck. That's where people are at right now. And there has to be a better way. Something has to change. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not a politician. I'm not a big economist. Like, I can read the papers, I can read the news, I can read the studies and the research. I'm educated enough to do that. But when you just look at it, you're saying this is almost being systematically done to the American people or to people worldwide at this point, because it's affecting so many different countries that it has to stop. There has to be a way to stop the spending, stop the inflation, make things cheaper. I don't know, do what you have to do. I don't care what it takes. People don't care what it takes. Just lower the cost of these things. raise wages. Maybe we hit an influx at some point and we're just headed towards hyperinflation. And that's a terrifying thing because the kind of desperation that comes with hyperinflation leads to massive wars. Right? This is what led to World War II, really. I mean, well, listen, a lot of stuff led to World War II, but it's definitely a major contributing factor. Absolutely it was. But with all this uncertainty in American life right now, with all this uncertainty around the globe as we see more tariffs, more trade wars, more real hot wars that are popping off in the Middle East, more political friction and over-policing and just a sense of desperation and fear that seeps into American life. It has to stop at some point. It has to stop at some point because if it doesn't, it does hit a tipping point where just people cannot deal with it anymore. And that's not a place that anybody wants to be or any country wants to be, especially in a country like America. This is my country. I love my country. And yeah, a lot of these videos, they're sad and a bit doomy, gloomy. But like I said, that's the situation that we're in right now. And we can't ignore the situation that we're in because if we ignore it at our own peril. But I don't know. If you're still here at this point, like and subscribe. Tell me what you think. If you think we're just over exaggerating, if you think that people are just not doing their due diligence or working on their resumes, or if you agree and you think that we're just quickly descending into a dystopia, if we're not already there, leave it in the comments. But other than that, hey, thanks for stopping by. It's Large Man Abroad. Have a good one.